Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to ReelQuick, episode 161. This is, I guess I would call it a bonus real quick, but it's not a surprise. I think we've announced it on the podcast last Monday and on Twitter. But the bear, we're going to talk about the bear. First and foremost, as always, we are everywhere. Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Check us out if you have yet to. Give us a follow, give us a subscribe. Shout out to everyone that engages in our stuff. Shout out to everyone that likes, posts, shares. Shout out all of our patrons for keeping us going. You guys are the reason why we jump on at 9 p.m. Eastern to record these episodes for the love of the game, but it's also for you guys. But let's just get to it. We're talking the bear. Season 3 dropped last Wednesday. I've been on the bear since season 1, and I'm very happy to report that I've convinced Tyler and Cam to get on the bear wave. So they just spent the last week or two absolutely grinding through seasons 1, 2, and 3 of the bear. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk season 1 and season 2, not in depth, very quick. This is a real quick, so we're going to try our best to keep this under an hour. So seasons 1 and seasons 2 are very quick. I really just want to hear Cam and Tyler's thoughts and what they thought of the show. Obviously, if you've been following me for a while on Twitter and TikTok, you know I absolutely love the bear. I've been championing this show as one of, if not the best on television right now. And then we'll get into season 3 when we're done with 1 and 2. And that will kind of do a little bit more in depth and go episode by episode. I won't say episode by episode, but we'll just kind of run through the season and talk about the big moments and specific narrative beats we want to discuss. Cam, we'll start with you, and we'll start with season 1. What are your thoughts? Well, how did you enjoy the bear for the first time?
The bear's fucking awesome. I'm so bared down. Always been a Chicago fan, but now we're an even bigger Chicago fan. Just the Bears adding to it. Fuck yeah, great show. I love Jeremy Allen White in this. I think Ayo Edebiri is fantastic. We'll talk about her directing upcoming, but just like they're obviously standouts in here, but all of the side cast in this. I think what's great about this show is there aren't any filler episodes, because almost every episode is like a filler episode almost. And we can discuss that more, but like almost every character has an episode, and it's not just in the first season. Like every character gets an episode. It's like towards, 1 in second season, 1 in the third season. Obviously you have your main characters of Carmi and Sydney, but just everyone kind of gets their time to shine. And I think that's what stands out about this show. Season 1 specifically, I watched a video the other day from the editor of Weekly Planet, I believe. Like, he has a YouTube channel. So first off, shout out the Weekly Planet a podcast. I like them a lot. But also, it was just basically about how the first episode is nothing, but it's like the best pilot of all time, because it just sets the stage perfectly for this chaotic, like incredibly edited panic attack that's about to ensue of this show. Where basically like nothing is said in this first episode. You don't find anything out. You just find out that Carmi works in this restaurant and wants to do all this right. And his staff is kind of a bunch of jagoffs for the most, like some of them are assholes, like Eben Moss, Baccarat, just kind of a dick. And then the rest of the cast, like just not very great chefs. And then you get Sydney, played by Ayo Edebiri, introduced. And she very clearly has an upside to her. And just like not a whole lot happens, but it's just like the editing in this thing is so amazing that it really pulls you in. Tyler, I know the first time you watched this, like you were kind of out on how many times they said cousin. I didn't notice it that much. Maybe like in the first season.
I did not rewatch either. I don't know why I was getting it so much the first time I watched it.
Yeah, I didn't notice it that much. I was like, I feel like they just don't say cousin that much, but they definitely do. I didn't notice it as much. But yeah, that first season just kind of sets the stage for where we're at. Obviously, like spoilers if you haven't seen it, like with the end, finding all the money in the tomato paste or tomato sauce, like just ends you on such a high. And like the fact that Sydney like quits and then comes back, and they just basically don't say anything. It's just more like grab a case of tomatoes sauce and start opening it. Like, I just love that. I love those character moments. You can very clearly see that, like, not just Sydney and Carmi are very good friends. Like, it's very clearly that, like, Jeremy Allen White and Ayo Edebiri are like best friends in real life, because they just knocked this thing out of the park. And someone was asking, like, not someone we know, but like the internet is asking, like, are they going to get together? Fuck that. Just let the people friends. Like, just
fucking hate that discourse, dude.
Yeah, the dumbest thing of all time. And just, yeah, this season is fantastic. I think I'm gonna get "Let It Rip" tattooed on me somewhere. Like, that might be the next tattoo.
Love that so much.
The final season monologue, I tweeted, like, didn't realize this was the best show ever, because it's a 7-minute monologue in a show about cooking that makes you just like question everything in your life. And the fact that there's a one-shot episode, I think it's maybe episode 6. No, it's 7, because I think it's the one where she stabs Richie. The fact that there's a one-shot episode in this thing about a fucking restaurant is absurd. But yeah, I love this thing. I think it's fantastic. I don't want to like talk seasons 2 or 3 just yet. I'm trying to keep it just one, but yeah, you find out so much about these characters without finding out a ton. And I think that's one of the best parts of it. I think it's widely known as one of the best edited shows, but it really fucking is. And I think season 3 just adds to that. We can talk that more, but that's my thoughts on the first season, I would say.
I was reading, just because you just said, like, you were talking about the editing. I read an article like 2 or 3 days ago that it was basically like the Bear has like, I forgot what the actual like numbers were, but the amount of time spent in each season of the Bear where like no one's talking, it's just like a lot of like choppy editing, or like talking where it's like, you know, chef hands, shit like that.
Yeah,
is like so much compared to how much they actually talk. And this article basically goes into how it's like, whoever wrote this article was basically saying it's like one of their favorite like visual storytelling shows, where it doesn't like hold your hand across the season. It's kind of like relying on just like choppy images for you to like put yourself in the mindset of these characters while also learning so much about them. I wish I saved that article because it was a good read. Tyler, your first watch also of seasons 1, 2, and 3. So we'll start with season 1.
Well, yeah. So last summer I tried to get into it because you loved it so much and tried to get me into it. And I watched like the first 4 or 5 episodes of season 1 last summer and then dipped out. Just didn't catch me for some reason. And I watched all 5 of those episodes in one night too. So I could just be like one off night. It wasn't like I, gave it 5 different days of chances. But didn't really capture my attention. Got just kind of annoyed by it. But then I jumped in this summer, so it is summer, and absolutely loved it. Like season 1, thought was incredible. We'll talk where it stack ranks with other seasons, but I don't know why I didn't like it the last time. It definitely finds its rhythm. It finds its momentum. Like Cam mentioned, it's just like a show about people cooking, but it's also just so much deeper and like about mental health. And it's done so poignantly by these like incredible character performances of, I think, Eben Moss, Bacharach. Like I watched all the seasons back to back, so it's hard to know for sure, but I don't know if he ever gets too much layers in season 1. I feel like I remember him being a little one note, but I think maybe towards the end of season 1, he might've got a little more, but I don't know. And I think Ayo's great. I think she's underused in almost every season, but she's a great addition for sure. But Jeremy Allen White's obviously the star that's carrying this through. And what's really great about the future seasons is you really get every single side character gets their own episode where you start to get more backstory on them and really start to connect with them more. But first season for sure is really all like the Jeremy Allen White show, and he absolutely carries it and delivers. And he's just like perfect at being typecast as like the person who has a terrible family life.
Yeah, what's this guy got going on, man? He's got to get better families, dude.
Yeah,
better movie families.
Every single thing he does is just that's just what he does.
He's too good looking to keep doing this.
Yeah,
he's too good looking for this.
I know he's a dad, and he's been a dad for a while now. So maybe he had like a kid when he was. Yeah, he's a dad. He's been a dad for a while. I think he had like he was a younger father, and it's like, so maybe his family life is a little messy, but yeah, it's crazy how he always does these roles like Shameless and this, and then obviously the Iron Claw, which he just always knocks out of the park. But season 1 was a great time. Had a blast with it. Can't really remember anything about it that wasn't besides it's like been blurred into season 2 and 3. But I remember liking it a lot. And I remember halfway through season 2, which we'll get into now, I was like, oh, I'm kind of liking season 1 more than season 2, actually. But then the back half of season 2 is like an all-timer. But yeah, season 1 definitely got me hooked. Some reason last summer didn't, but love the bear.
I won't spend too much time on season 1. I've been, like I said, championing the show for forever, and I'm very active on Twitter and TikTok about all seasons of the bear. But yeah, everything you guys say, just echo. I love this show. It's so chaotic. It's so fast paced. It just gets my heart racing every single episode. I feel like we have 3 seasons now, 28 episodes total, and not a minute goes by unwarranted. Not a minute feels like it's wasted. Both of you guys mentioned the dynamic between Sid and Carmi. I think it's beautiful. I really do love watching this friendship kind of evolve over time. And even though in season 3 it's a little shaky, I still like their dynamic where you kind of like clearly can tell that they just continue to care about each other. But we'll get to that down the line. That's where I'll leave it on season 1. I'll echo everything you guys say. Season 2. Go for it.
What's your favorite and least favorite episode from season 1? I don't know if you guys have that. I'll start just because I asked the question. My favorite is System, which is season 1, episode 1, and that is entirely just because, well, it might be the last one. I don't know. That might just be entirely because I watched, like I said, that like 20-minute breakdown of the episode on how it's basically about nothing, but it's like the best pilot ever. And then I think Brigade is the worst. So season 1, episode 3, just kind of. It's getting into the show. It's him trying to change the culture of the restaurant a little bit. It's the first time he goes to Al-Anon. But yeah, I like most every episode, but I figured if I was ranking them, those are the first and last. George, you might not know off the top of your head if you didn't.
No, I do. I'm going to go with the finale of season 1 because I think the best scene of season 1 is that 7-minute monologue that Jeremy Allen White has. Yeah, like that's, I think, just one of the most just like I don't know how someone's that talented.
Seen that online. I can't believe.
Yeah, I was gonna say so. That's so funny. Actually, you bring that up. I was gonna for some reason I never did, but I was gonna text both of you do you know anything big that happens? And I'm like, there's a stupid question because they should. Like, I see a bear clip twice a day on my feed, so I'm like, they had to have seen at the very least that one monologue. Which, listen, I'm happy you didn't. But yeah, that I don't know if I could pick a least favorite because I honestly, again, I don't remember the individual episodes too well from season 1. But my favorite definitely will go with the finale just because of how much I love that scene.
Yeah, go the finale too. I'd say maybe least favorite is Dogs. That's the one where they go cater a birthday party and like he drugs all the kids on accident.
That one though has the hey, I thought, or the old man walks up to him. It's like, I thought you killed yourself. And he goes, nope, that was my brother.
Oh yeah, that was good.
That's maybe the funniest line in this show.
I don't know. It's either Dogs or Sheridan where I tapped out the first time I watched it. So I feel like by default that has to be like my least favorite episode of the season. And I think it might have been Dogs. I just remember like I was digging the first couple episodes a bit, and then they like were just Sheridan, at the mobster's house, like cooking at a barbecue. And there's like funny moments, but I was kind of like, don't really care for this as much. But yeah, I can't. I'll have solid answers for season 2 and 3 of like a definitive favorite and least favorite, but season 1, I don't know, not as much.
I like in Dogs as well that like obviously he drugs all the kids, and you think it's gonna be like before you figure out like before the end of the episode, you think it's gonna be like the next crux, like one of them's going to fucking jail or something, right?
And Cicero's like, honestly, good, dude. Thank God.
Like,
they're fucking knocked out now.
Like, they're all alive. I don't like it this way. That made me laugh. That's also when you're introduced to sorry, I can't remember anyone's name right now. Sugar's husband. And they just all hate him. And I think that's very funny. It's just very funny. But Yeah, no,
He's
I
a
think
dweeb.
Sheridan, you might be onto something as well. That one I don't love as much.
All right, then we'll move on to season 2, and bad hosting, but I'll start this one because I think this is one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched. It's season 1 on steroids in terms of how anxious this show makes you feel. What I love about this show, and Cam, I actually mentioned this on our X-Men episode because I compared the two shows. Every single character in this show just has their moment, and my favorite character moments just take place in this season. Obviously, everyone talks about Fishes to no end, deservingly so, because it's one of the best episodes of television I've ever seen. It gives you this like way deeper and more like intricate look into the Berzatto family and like why Carmen is as fucked up as he is, and you kind of see like the woman that raised him, the aunts and uncles around him. And then immediately after Fishes is Forks, which is probably my second favorite episode of that season. It is the cousin episode. My goodness, Tyler, I didn't disagree with you when you said that like in season 1, cousin just didn't feel like an afterthought, but he just wasn't developed as well as maybe like a second build or third build actor or actress should be developed. This episode just like took his character from like, okay, I kind of care about you, to holy shit, you might be my favorite character in this entire show.
I texted you guys just to talk that a little bit. The best episodes of every show and the best trope is when the shitty character is like, oh, I'm not shitty anymore. I'm actually
a really good, important fucking character.
Exactly. Every show has it. It's the best episode always.
This is kind of, I'll be honest, I loved season 1 after it came out. It was not until the end of season 2 where I started calling this the best television show on air. This is kind of where, and obviously you see it in season 1, especially with that finale scene that we were just talking about, but this season is where this show truly goes from, mentally unstable man working in a kitchen to this is a full-blown television show and commentary on mental health awareness and everything around that, which I just think works. And I've been saying this a lot for the last like 2-3 days, even on TikTok. So I'm sorry for repeating myself. But it's like so insane seeing like the parallels between working in a kitchen and, how poorly someone's mind who's like not strong mentally looks, because it's just both chaotic, just anxiety and paranoia left and right. And this show beats you up emotionally. And this season in particular, like I said, it's season 1 on steroids. And then obviously we get to like that final ending, which I really like, which is the friends and family night at the restaurant, because it's, good God, you're greeted to that entire like final 10 minutes of the show where everything blows up. Sydney's about to have a panic attack. Fucking Carmy is locked in a freezer. He's screaming at cousin. He's screaming at Claire. It's heartbreaking. This is an insane season of television, man. Yeah, fuck that episode. Fuck every episode. Fuck this show. But this is an insane season of television. It is so goddamn good.
Who's next?
I'll pass along to who started on season 1. I think Cam did. So Tyler, you start season 2.
That's fine.
So first like 3 or 4 episodes, I remember I was gonna like text the group chat and be like, I think I actually like season 1 more than season 2. Still really like season 2, but then I think starting with Honeydew, so see episode 4 on, I was like, okay, this is like all timer stuff. So season 2, I definitely prefer with season 1, but so many. I mean, you get a lot more in season 3 as well, but characters start to get developed, new characters start to get involved. There's tropes involved, but like Cam mentioned, the classic trope of like Richie going from like a loser who can't get anything right to after Forks, he starts to really get his act together. Also like an all-time trope that, again, I'm not saying it's a negative, like every TV show movie's gonna have tropes, but all-time trope in the finale is right when Carmy starts to talk about his girlfriend, the girlfriend shows up to hear it. Like, that's in a lot of stuff. And it's one of those things that if you want to be like,
it works.
If it's a show you don't like, then you can be like, oh, that's another reason to be like, and that part sucks too. But if you like it, you don't care. I will say there's some valid criticism. Like I do think like Forks, I'll just say right after that, like is my favorite episode of the season. But for a show that's so ingrained about mental health, I feel like it's so great at showing like Carmi how mental health isn't something that you can just like fix overnight. I mean, really, like we can talk about it when we get season 3. Like, has anything gotten close to fixed at all with him? But for anyone who's gone through mental health struggles that have been in a dark place and gotten better, it's not like you wake up one day and everything's fixed. Only thing I would say is a negative of Forks. I feel like it's a little bit like that for Richie. Like, it really took him like one day in that new kitchen to be like, I am like up every day at 5 a.m. Everything's got to be perfect. I'm going to notice that. Like, I feel like his transformation happened really fast. But again, same thing with the tropes that we already talked about. Because the show is something we love so much and I dig it so much and vibe with it, I don't care. But like, if I want to remove myself and like be a critical lens, I'm like, man, Richie did go from like a dunce and an ass to like 5-star chef, like running a restaurant pretty damn quick. Like a 4-day
I'm a suit guy now.
Yeah,
yeah.
He literally walks into the next episode. It's like, yeah, I'm a suit guy now.
Yeah, I'm a suit guy now.
It was a week, to be fair. He was there for 5 days, I believe. So
that is fair. Again, I don't care. I'm just saying, I think it went like a little fast, but I love like Honeydew. Like, the thing is, again, like I'm just gonna talk like because this show is like I think it's the best show on television right now. I like it way more than House of the Dragon, to be honest. House of the Dragon still bangs, but The Bear has way more my attention than that did. So I'm saying that to preface, like anytime it's something negative, it's more just like having a critical eye and trying to be a little unbiased. And another thing, like I think this season did well. I think Will Poulter's cameo, which is borderline not even a cameo because he's like he's back in season 3 and he's just like a full grown character that went to the same chef school as Carmi, and now he's doing that Denmark, I believe.
When that's revealed is so great too at the end. I think it is season 2. Yeah, it's because it's in Forks, right? When Richie is looking at the pictures on the screen, and it's like Carmi was very clearly the chef that Will Poulter's character is talking about, and that's great. That's good television, man.
Yep. And then same with Olivia Colman and Forks. She has a great like monologue and story she tells. She comes back in season 3. I think the quote cameos in season 2 are done very well, whereas season 3 we'll get into them. I feel like can be more of the classic, like, oh, showed their face and they didn't really impact the story. We'll see if they come back. I don't really think either of them will do much meaningful. The two I'm talking about, I don't really know if there's a third or fourth, but the two big ones, I feel like weren't like a Will Poulter, Olivia Colman, where I'm like where yes, a face we're familiar with, a cameo, but like that Will Poulter and Olivia Colman had that staying factor. But the back-to-back of Fishes and Forks is like up there, the best back-to-back any TV show's done ever. Fishes is, and my fiance's mom is starting to watch this, and she doesn't have Hulu. Like, so my fiance, like Riley's older brother, just had a newborn kid who's like 3 months old now. So they have Hulu. So like grandma duty, she goes over and watches them. And like her reward for watching the 3-month-old is like, she just watches The Bear, which is hilarious because she just watched Fishes. I'm like, how did a baby like sleep? I guess 3 months old, they can sleep through anything, but Fishes is like not really an episode of you want to watch on a baby, not because like they would process swear words, but just because like it's so much yelling and loudness. Yeah, speaking of more cameos, Fishes, because the first 5 episodes I thought were really good. Honeydew's the big standout, but then Fishes and Forks, I just want to talk about a little more. John Mulaney, I think is so good. Like, there's so many cameos.
John Mulaney's so good in that.
Jamie Lee Curtis as the mom, like she's great, but a little one note. Like, I mean, like amazing performance.
That's crazy.
Like, dude, you don't think she's one note in that? I thought all she did was yell.
Even after season 3,
no, because she has those moments where she's very quiet and like standing, looking out into the distance very clearly.
That's right. I still think it's her best like performance I've seen in a long time. If maybe
I was literally like, this is the best Jamie Lee Curtis performance I've ever seen. And listen, my Lee Curtis bag is not as deep as it should be, but from what I've seen, this is number 1. I think she's.
You're telling me it's not Freaky Friday?
No, it's not Freaky Friday.
Hey, that movie banged growing up. I will take no Freaky Friday standard, but no, she's great in this. But yeah, you're right. She isn't just like yelling the whole time. But I think like John Mulaney, obviously you expect comedy, which he delivers. I think it's hilarious with the Fox when like they're begging him for like $500 to buy baseball cards, and you kind of get implied that
like,
John
no.
Mulaney. It's implied that Mulaney's rich enough to where like $500 to him really doesn't matter. So he's like, I'm going to give you guys the money, but you got to give me daily updates. Tell me how much.
I just want to see where this goes. Like, and he's like, I love this. Just keep me updated. So
which funny. Seems like the funnest place to be like part of those dysfunctional families. Being like, well, I was going to say it'd be fun to be like the wealthy one of the dysfunctional family, but I imagine for every one moment like that, that's fun and silly, you get 100 moments of people trying to take advantage of you and pressure you to give them the money. So probably sucks to be that. But when he gives grace for the 7 fishes is so dynamite. From a comedic actor like him, the fact that he just pulls out that emotion, that's why. And I didn't mean to bring down Jamie Lee Curtis's performance, but I feel like just John Mulaney blew me away so much because like he's a comedian. So you go into it, you're like, oh, I'm expecting comedy, which he delivers, but the drama he brings is so well done.
I've always said that the comedy actors give the best dramatic performances, and he absolutely nails it in this one. Just is fantastic.
So,
Cam,
somehow I was gonna say we've just gone 20 minutes without mentioning John Bernthal is crazy because he's
I thought we'd like Tyler, you mentioned this is John Bernthal's best performance. I probably don't disagree with you after watching.
You doubted me at first when I texted that, though.
No, I still think I'll say it. He's fucking amazing in Daredevil. And I've always been a massive John Bernthal fan. No, I've always
he's even fantastic in the one scene he has in Wind River.
Oh, he's fucking amazing in that's a really shit insane, unfortunately. He's fucking amazing in that. But yeah, I've always been a big John Bernthal guy. And this is great to see him in this thing because he's not outwardly like depressed in this. You could very easily make him like very clearly depressed and like you could give him a dramatic performance of that sorts, but he's very clearly like reserved about it and everything and trying to make himself seem, on top of everything, which is a lot of things, right? Is a lot of things, a lot of people who don't want to appear depressed, obviously. And I think, like you've mentioned, like this entire show is an incredible look into like mental health, but this episode specifically, just looking into John Bernthal's character is absolutely fantastic, as well as Jamie Lee Curtis's character. I texted you guys when watching that this is a wildly better performance than Everything Everywhere All at Once, which she won the Oscar for. So take that Oscar away and just give her that Oscar for this. Because I would have to guess this is the same year, right? 2022 was
yes.
Yeah.
No,
so 2023 was season
2023.
Damn. All right.
And Oscars can't be given to TV shows anyways. So
no, obviously, but just give it to her. But like the scene where Carmi's asking John Bernthal to like start a restaurant together. He's asking for I think it's this episode where he's asking if he wants to start a restaurant, and like you can very clearly like see Carmi's monologue basically playing out like at the end of the season where he's like, I got so mad at him because he was always shutting me out. And it's obviously because he had a ton of mental health issues and he didn't want Carmi to like fall into this trap of the restaurant and everything. Like you wanted Carmi to go out and succeed and be bigger than him or than his family and all that. But like, I just like getting that backstory. And like you said, Tyler, I'd love to like see a list of like back-to-back bang episodes that like come up to this and not 2-parters, right? They can't be 2-parters, I think is the rule on that.
I was talking with my like college group of friends about that, and truly the only like back-to-back in television that we collectively agreed might be better than this back-to-back is Battle of the Bastards and Winds of Winter and Game of Thrones.
Oh shit, I didn't read them.
Yeah, that's legitimately the only back-to-back that I thought of. Or maybe
be some sort of Breaking Bad back.
Confessions to Ozymandias is probably the number one, but like still the fact that it's like among the best of the best is insane.
Does I can't even think the second to last 2 episodes of the Clone Wars stack up, George? Does that count? They're kind of 2 parts.
Yeah,
I can't even remember their time.
Yeah, I mean that's like the best Star Wars content ever.
It's
so
up
I'd
there.
say yeah.
But beside the point, fucking Forks, man. I love Forks. I love that. I love that episode so much.
Just while we're on Forks, I was reading. This was a long time ago. This was after season 2 came out. I remember like just reading up on the seasons, and there was this one person that had this idea that in Forks, in Fishes, when Carmi gives Mikey like that Christmas gift, Carmi walks away and Mikey starts like hysterically crying, like having a full-blown panic attack. Someone theorized that I was reading about that Mikey started hysterically crying because he knew that he had made the decision to take his life already at that point.
Yeah. No,
that makes it, because that whole conversation they had gave me very much the Office vibes of you're not going to be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like when he's like, we're going to have a great day tomorrow. We're going to build this restaurant tomorrow. But, he's like, I'm not going to be here for that.
Yeah.
That's
very hard to
devastating.
think about and not something I, thought of before. I will say, how I mentioned, I haven't seen the monologue from season 1. I have definitely seen the episode of him yelling at Bob Odenkirk's character.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely seen that scene on Twitter and just honestly never really knew where the fuck it was from. I had no clue where that was from, but apparently it's in the Bears top 2 episodes, I guess. But yeah, season 2, I think we can all agree is probably the best. I don't know, three season rankings aren't going to change all that differently. So I don't think we have to hide it. I think season 2 is very clearly the best. And shout out this show for being real television and giving us a season a year, even if it's 10 episodes.
Facts.
That's how television should be, a season a year. And they're working on making season 4 right now, or they don't have the script, but they were going to film them back to back. Just keep pumping this shit out. It's so good, man.
As much as I love this show, I think there is a very obvious season ranking, but we could talk about that after season 3. But all right, let's get to season 3, which is going to be the meat of our episode again. I said
best
earlier,
and worst episode. Do you have it? I know best, but do you have worst?
Fishes is the best. Dude, there's not a bad episode.
Team Forks for me. Team Forks. Forks is best.
I'm going Fishes, but I don't know. I don't know what the worst episode is. None of them are bad.
I think first off, this season is actually where a lot of things happen. I feel like first and third season, not a whole lot happens, which I enjoy, but some people have issues with. I think the season premiere of this is a bit of a struggle. Not a struggle, but not the best of the season.
Yeah, I'd say maybe episode 2 pasta. But again, like I said, the first 3 episodes are when I was like, yeah, season 1 clears this. And then 4 on, I was like, season 2 clears season 1. So any of those first 3 didn't really grab me. But that's the great thing about the show too, is they're 30-minute episodes. There's a couple that go longer.
Shout out this show. I wanted to mention all of the episodes run till a minute left when you're watching on Hulu, right? Every week I'm watching House of the Dragon or The Boys or The Acolyte. All of them have 8-minute credits. Mm-hmm. Shout out this show. It runs till the last minute and then gets you through credits and you're done. So shout out it.
All right, let's move along to season 3. We'll go episode by episode, but we'll just talk about the bigger moments. I say bigger moments, even though I think we're about to talk about episode 1 in its entirety, because my goodness, I tweeted this.
Is the best.
This is insane. This is insane. It's such an insane season premiere. It's essentially a 40-minute music video.
There's no words. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there is, but
there are words, but I mean that complimentary. This is just absolutely insane. You're basically going from the time that Carmy was free from the freezer at the very end of season 2, and you're somewhat down the line, but you're getting flashbacks to when Carmy left Sugar. You're getting flashbacks to just various Mikey shots. You also have Sid on pretty much the brink of collapse, and we'll talk about that down the line because she does eventually collapse. And then you have Carmy trying to apologize to Sydney, and it's all it's edited together in the most it's a music video. And I mean that that's not a derogatory comment. It's literally a 37-minute music video, and it's one of those early introduction scenes that you would expect before the initial title card comes on, and it just kept going all the way to the end of the episode, and it was just absolutely insane. Victoria and I were watching this silent for 40 minutes, just staring at our screen. Insane premiere.
I'm so sorry.
Cam.
To jump back, my mistake. I wanted to ask this in season 2. What's your guys' opinion on Claire and Carmy's relationship? Because I think in the few scenes we get, it's one of the best relationships we've gotten in television almost. Obviously it's not a great relationship, but just like the way they work these two together, barely any screen time, I think they handle it masterfully.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. It's very like sincere. It's very like Claire clearly like understands Carmy, and just Carmy loves having that, you know, we'll call her a safety net right by his side all the time. So I think that dynamic just works really well, where like she truly cares for this man and he truly loves having like somebody like that supporting him day to day. And yeah, you're right. For the little screen time they have, really good writing around the two of them.
And I think it's like, it's the perfect look at a relationship in giving it so few time because of the jobs that they do, right? And I think it was someone commenting maybe on your TikTok, George, or someone, maybe Tyler, I can't remember, or maybe you just saw it on Twitter or something, of the idea that it's like, how does Carmy not understand? Like, Carmy's mad at her that she doesn't understand that he doesn't have any time when she's a fucking doctor. That's the entire point of the
whole
show.
point.
Like, literally the entire point of their relationship is Carmy is just kind of like self-destructing it to where like he thinks she doesn't understand it when she's a legit like doctor and very clearly understands their time. And I think that's also another reason it's perfect in the show, is like they barely show, because neither of these two people have time. Like it's a great look at their relationship and gives you so much with so little. And then obviously the end rips your heart out. Bring back Claire Bear.
All right, Cam, just go into the premiere of season 3.
Dude, this might be my favorite episode of the show. It's like I'm sitting there kind of like you, just in awe, almost like didn't speak, like just gripped to my, unfortunately, to my phone. You know, I was watching.
That's crazy.
I had to, man. It's the life I live. I have to. I'm just like holding on to this thing, wanting to watch every second of it. And yeah, I love this premiere. It shows everything, like every mistake Carmy's made up until this point, and he's apologizing for a couple of things, but not apologizing, obviously, to Claire. And just like how his life and how he's gotten here, and just I don't know. It's the editing in this is a masterclass, man, of editing. And like you said, it's a 40-minute music video. There are words, but it's barely any. Like, it's a lot of words are in flashbacks of just people talking, and then like quick conversations and nothing really. It's just, I don't know, man. This thing grips me. It grips me. This is probably the episode I started telling Emma, like, you got to watch this fucking show, because I have told her multiple times since. And I'll keep telling her, because I want her to watch this show. This is the episode that brought it home for me a little bit.
I'm in the same boat. I'm trying to get Riley to watch it with me, but she won't. I don't know if either of your significant others like this, but Riley's a big, like, if you've already seen it, like, I don't really want to like re-watch those episodes, like go through it with you when you already like seen those 2 seasons and feel like I'm just like, it's not new for you, but it's new for me, which is understandable. I feel that. I always enjoy. I love showing people movies I've seen, but I don't like seeing movies that someone else has seen.
Genuinely, I want to watch this show again. And that's why I want her to watch it. Like, honestly, like, I just want to watch it a second time. But this was a show that Emma and I were like, we should watch this together. We should watch this together. And then, you know, we wanted to do this video, so I just went ahead and watched it. So now I don't know. I might have missed my opportunity of getting Tammy to watch it.
But episode 1's so great. There's no better way to kick off a season. Cam mentioned it. I don't even know if that was in the Patreon episode of this when we recorded before this or this, but the Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, I don't know when we were talking about them, but
last episode.
Obviously they did the score for this, and it's one of those that just such a, and we'll talk about like episode 6 later, which I loved, and then you see directed by Ayo Edebir, and you're like, hell yeah. And then the same for this, where it's like you love the episode, and then you see score was by them, you're like, hell yeah. Like, that's just incredible that they were part of this, and the editing I think was great. Direction, acting, I mean, so much of it is nonverbal, and I think it's a perfect way to set the stage for what the season is, because this season really is divisive. It really is divisive, especially amongst, you know, we saw obviously that critical review that got spread around a lot, but if you look at like Rotten Tomatoes, I know Rotten Tomatoes sucks, but critics on aggregate really love this season. It's a 90% plus, but the fans, like, it's getting lower every day I look. It's like in like the 60s now. Like, it keeps dropping for fans for season 3. So divisive season. And I think a lot of it is just, this isn't really the show people thought it was, because it's clearly a mental health show the whole time.
Mhm.
But I think season 3 is really when it starts to like dive a lot less into the cooking and opening the restaurant. Because if you think about the season as a whole, from like point A to point B of episode 1, episode 10, not much happens with the restaurant at all. But so much happens with the backstory and layers of these characters. So that's really why I think it's just a show that maybe not people were knowing they were signing up for. But this first episode is a great way to enter the season. And as I tweeted out, it lulls you into a massive false sense of security that it's going to be a more, comforting and exciting season, that you don't have to worry about screaming and anxiety, because episodes 2 and 3 throw you right back into like, holy shit, I need to breathe or else I'm going to die during this episode.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it so much.
Yeah. Tyler mentioned 2 and 3, so we'll just kind of move on from there. 2 is like, 2 kind of like, I know it's supposed to be serious, but it's just so fucking funny.
Dude, people get mad that the show wins for like best comedy. And the show is written as or like listed as a comedy. When Richie and Carmi are going back and forth, and he's like, no, fuck you. He's like, no, how about fuck you? And that they do that for like 10 minutes. Hilarious. Like,
and then in between them going fuck you back and forth, everyone that walks into the kitchen is like, am I having a stroke because of that fucking light going? It's fucking hilarious. It's so funny.
Anxiety inducing because it's so fast paced, and every person walks in and it's like, what's this? Non-negotiables. And like, am I having a stroke? Like you said, the lights flashing, and then there's more facts showing up, and
they're just cracking jokes left and right while there's like,
he's like, actually,
2
how about
grown
fuck
men
you?
screaming at each other. Like, it's just, especially after that first episode where you're like at the end of the first episode, your heart's not racing as much as it like usually is.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, it's like the first time you kind of feel like calm after an episode of The Bear, and then 2 just immediately. Sugar walks into the kitchen. Can you print these non-negotiables? Then Sydney comes in, sees the non-negotiables. Then they start arguing. Then Cousin comes back in, and they're just immediately shouting, fuck you, all while they're trying to fix the light above, while people keep walking in, asking if they're having a fucking stroke. And then you have Fack and that other idiot dropping. It's insane. It's so chaotic. It's so absolutely insane. And then this is like the episode, obviously, that just kicks off just 8 straight panic attack episodes. Which is just phenomenal. What else happened this episode? Like big thing wise, like
it's literally just them. This episode is just them in the kitchen talking about the non-negotiables, him cooking, and he's been up obviously all night. And then it ends with, obviously Marcus's mom died, and Carmi basically consoling with him and saying, like, hey, if you need anything, I'm here, or some. And I think you tweeted it, George, like a very emotional, just one line of, you don't let it in, and Mark. And that's how the episode ends, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this episode 2 it's a nugget from season 1, probably, or season 2, probably a 2-minute scene that they expanded into the whole episode, and it's from Forks. Yeah, Forks. It's when her husband brings in like the 8th fish dish, and then like one after another people come in like, what the hell is this? And they're like, it's a dish. They're like, get that the fuck out of here. And someone else walks in. It was literally like that, but for 30 minutes, where it was the non-negotiable. Like, what the hell is this non-negotiable stuff?
Yeah,
but
was funny, fun
episode, chaotic as hell. That you get introduced to Marcus's the death of his family member, and don't know if I love how like that. I don't know if I love that storyline. I don't think they like dived into it as much as I feel like they dove into it an awkward amount. It was like, didn't feel like enough, but I feel like they could have either done less or more with that. But
I think it like you're absolutely right. Like,
for Marcus.
Yeah, it's like just them getting Marcus to like a little bit more closer to like your center of attention, but also in what I've been mentioning about the show is like they're tackling throughout seasons 1 and 2, they're tackling mental health from like all areas, like obviously like the loss of a family member to suicide, work stress, life stress, family stress, relationship stress. So I think they wanted to add in that like Marcus's mom thing as well, to throw in the whole like death of a parent kind of like impact on mental health, or losing someone to an illness, like with that impact that has on you on mental health. So I don't know. I agree with you though. I don't think they established Marcus as like this center of attention character well enough for me to like truly have this like emotional connection to.
I think they do enough because
it
has been a season where she's sick. And I don't fully disagree with you. I wasn't distraught when his mom passed, unfortunately, but I think giving him that episode of Honeydew really helped him. Like obviously, he has to leave his mom and go to Amsterdam, I believe, or I forget exactly where.
Copenhagen.
Maybe Copenhagen. I'm
Denmark.
just thinking of Amsterdam because of Seth now.
Yeah.
But I think they do enough, but I do fully understand that he's not a character I'm like distraught over by any means. But yeah.
Then Doors.
Yeah, we can move right into episode 3 since we're talking about Marcus. Episode opens at Marcus's funeral. I remember like the one thing I thought
Marcus's mom's funeral.
I mean, sorry.
Marcus's
Jesus.
funeral.
Yeah, Marcus's mom.
And then the bear stabs it.
Yeah. But yeah, this is like another episode pretty much like mostly dedicated to Marcus. And the one thing I like remember thinking, and I don't know if like you guys tell me if I'm wrong or just a bad person on this. I think they could have made the eulogy that he gave at his mother's funeral like something a little more impactful. Like I didn't hit as hard as I think I expected a eulogy in this particular show to hit.
I think it's again, it might have hit more if you care about Marcus more.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a bad eulogy. It definitely
No, not bad by any means. I think I just that like that's how high a standard I think it was the show.
It was them trying to maybe recreate the season 1 monologue a little bit and just kind of bring out that emotion from their audience. And he's not there as a character yet. And I don't know if anyone is outside of Ayo Edebiri, even Moss Baccarat or Jeremy Allen White. I don't know if any of them are there just yet because you spend all your time with those characters, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll get your one episode with Tina, thank you, and then with Marcus, and you'll have those episodes, but you won't truly be in love with those characters, I don't think.
Yeah, but on the flip side, we weren't really in love with Cousin until Forks. And then everyone started like,
I think still he had plenty of screen time. You weren't supposed to be in love with him. He was the asshole of the show. He was the asshole. You're right.
And
he still kind of is, but he's an asshole with purpose now. And that's kind of all like what season 2 is, right? So I think it works out because he has so much screen time.
Yeah. All right. You're right. Maybe I'm just not emotionally attached to Marcus as I'd like to be. But again, just staying, I guess, on the Marcus theme, even though a lot happens between the beginning and the end of this episode. At the end of the episode, one of my favorite like line drops in this movie is when Marcus comes back to the restaurant, and obviously everyone in the kitchen is just yelling and screaming at each other. But once he walks in, they just go silent and they stare at him, and not one person has any idea like what to do or what to say to a person in that situation. So Marcus steps up and is basically just like, listen, I just want to work. Like, I'm here to work. I'm here to take my mind off things, yada, yada, yada. And this is just a great character moment for Carmy. He kind of pulls Marcus aside, and he was basically like, listen, I know you don't want, anyone to talk about it, but, he's like, he was pretty much reassuring Marcus that like, he's there, like everyone's there for him. Like he still has this kitchen family around him. And then he goes on to advise, Marcus. He basically starts saying, I know you want to do nothing about it. Maybe you should, and then he kind of like stops, but it's implied that he was going to continue saying, maybe you should do something about it. And Marcus asks Carmy, is that what you did? And Carmy said no. And he just like Jeremy Allen White's face, like he's got that, like, I don't know how he can like do emotion that well, but like his face just went stiff, his eyes went watery immediately. It's like the most insane bit of acting, and like it's literally just him staring at the floor. And then just in between like the episode, the one of the non-negotiables was changing the menu every night. We'll get into.
Dumbass.
So it is such a stupid decision, and like all season, and we'll talk about it with every episode, because every episode you kind of get deeper and deeper into how much that's costing the restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's
yeah,
very much. It's that alone is very much like the crux of the season. Almost, it's a lot. It's a lot of the pain between Carmi and Sydney. It's a lot of the pain between just financials. It's a lot of the pain just between all of them, like for stress purposes of learning new things. Tina's not a perfect chef by any means, but it's just so fucking stupid. And it's very. I saw a tweet of like, what the fuck happened, and it was basically the scene of Carmi and Sydney creating the menu in season 2 when they're like bouncing ideas off each other, and then it's the scene in season 3 where Carmi's like, no, this works, and she's offering ideas, and this works, right? And it's very clearly just like the descent into Carmi's madness that he's kind of going through right now. Like, he's struggling, and he needs it to be perfect, and he needs it to be this, and this. He needs it to be made in his image. And it's just, it's just the look into his mind, right? And trying to make you understand how dark this man is going. But yeah, stupid idea, dumbass. Violet.
Yeah, I'm trying to, like, I have synopsises up of the episode, so I'm just making sure that we didn't miss any massive moments. But yeah, Violet. So two big things kind of happen in Violet, and this is kind of where, one of them is where Sid begins to have like a larger like role in the season, because the first 3 episodes she was just kind of, I think, there mostly to just kind of give Carmi like someone to work off of, and someone to like show that like he's being like this like dick CDC now. But in episode 4, the CDC of Ever, which is the restaurant that Olivia Colman runs, basically tells Io that he's been in the restaurant, and he praising Io, and he basically says like, yeah, I want to open my own restaurant, and I want you to come and be the CDC, which kind of leads Io to just having this season, or leads Sydney to having this season of just like complete conflict. And then at the very end of the episode is where we find out that a food critic from the Chicago Tribune is writing a review on the restaurant. And again, like Cam, I think you said, that's like the crux of the rest of the season, where everyone's just like super on edge the entire time, waiting for this review to come out. And we'll get to kind of how that ends at the end of the season. But yeah, that's episode 4.
I think a lot of this, and this is a hard show. This is a hard show to walk episode, and a lot of complaints of season 4. Nothing happens in this season, and I'll be the first to admit that this entire season is Carmi's descent a little bit into this mental health crisis that he's having, and just seeing that over probably a month. Because really all they're working towards is this next review. This review has to be perfect, and this is the first episode, right? They mentioned, I think you said, this entire season is just kind of getting to that review and building up to that, and you have a lot of pitfalls. But there are a lot of complaints of like nothing happens in the season, and yeah, you can say that for sure. But I think Tyler mentioned like so many things happen within this guy's brain. Like, this is very like structured around Carmi's brain, and then you'll have maybe a breakout filler episode here and there, but for the most part it's like in the descent of Carmi's brain really is what's happening.
I legitimately at 9:43, not even like a half hour ago or 40 minutes ago, one of my friends texted me, "Did you think season 3 of The Bear had a plot?" And I didn't respond yet, but I'm gonna basically say like
it does.
Like
watch
yes,
our podcast.
Yeah, watch our podcast. I'm going to tell him like, yes, it does have a plot, but not like traditionally the way like seasons 1 and seasons 2 did. This very much feels, and when we get to the ending, we'll talk about like the cliffhanger we're kind of left on, but this feels like part 1 of like a greater like, season 3 part 1, season 3 part 2, where like season 3, what we have is very much just like this massive like emotional setup for what that review is going to like lead to, which I'm assuming is going to be the catalyst for everything they do in season 4. Like this really like this season kind of like it was very like significantly more personal, where it felt more like a reality TV show, because like it's not as like in depth. There's no like true like plot arc in this show, whereas they're just more focusing on like developing these characters and giving every character like this significantly deeper emotional attachment to like their audience, so that when part 2 comes out, which is like season 4, we'll like truly be there when like whatever that review is and how that's going to like, you know, move the season 4 along. We're going to be right there. So it's, I don't know, for me, it's way more of like a part 1 than like a true end-to-end season.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of like criticism I see for this season, I feel like it's just kind of like spitting out like the point and saying that that's what they don't like about it. Like I've seen a lot of people say, feel like nothing happened with the restaurant, feel like nothing improved with like Carmi or his relationships. And like, I feel like that's just like the whole point of like this whole trying to get a Michelin star and be like a fine dining restaurant, like isn't going to get him anywhere in life. Like he thinks it's going to solve all his problems, but it's not. And this pursuit of trying to get a Michelin star and achieve all this stuff is not going to get him closer with his friends, his coworkers, his family. It's not going to battle the stuff going on inside his mind, not going to ease anything with him and Claire. So like everyone's just kind of saying like, oh, I feel like nothing was developed between these relationships and nothing happened this season. And I feel like that's kind of like the point of the season, that he is just spinning his tires in the mud, thinking he's doing everything except what he should be doing. Like he's trying all these non-negotiables, trying to change a menu every night, trying to get a perfect critic score, and thinking that that's going to cure him of all this stuff that it's just really not.
Yeah, it's really a hard show to, like I said, go episode by episode, just because of how few things happen. But I think that's a very outside look into it. It's observing a soccer match from the U.S. space station when you're not looking at it right on the field. That's a Copa America joke right there. I think they're watching it from the U.S. space station or something, but
went straight over my head.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, but second, we can move to the next, because there is an episode I do want to talk about.
Yeah,
I think like episode 6. I think.
Well, we can't not mention the Josh Hartnett cameo in episode 4.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that was crazy.
I like flat out had to do a double take because I was like, wait a second, I just saw that dude.
He's like the new husband.
Yeah, he's cousin's ex-wife's new husband. Which is,
that's what it was.
That's such a weird dynamic to me, and we'll get to it down the line. But like, his ex-wife starts like begging him to come to her new wedding.
Yeah, it's really weird to me.
I was like, this.
It's
like,
I don't think it's that weird. It's very much like Richie and this person are they are still very much entwined, and they have a kid together. When you have a kid together, your life is very much more complicated. Just so you guys are aware. So like, I don't think that's the most crazy thing ever. And I think like it's a lot. It's a lot of things more for the kid. It's not for her. She doesn't care if Richie's there. It's more her daughter cares if Richie's there. Like that's what it's for. It's much less for themselves, but it would make their daughter happy. So I
do we
guy
just
right now, but to be thoughts on it.
You cut out for that last minute.
Oh, bummer. Did I was gonna say that's the longest pause we've ever had. I was like, I don't know what you guys want from me. I didn't realize it cut out. So I'm that guy there. That was just me being
we got most of it. It really only cut out the last like 6 seconds. So
okay,
we got
my bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
All right, let's just move on to season 5, which is Children. Episode 5, sorry, I don't know, whatever. Called Children. Fucking dumbass.
Shout out John Cena, baby.
Yeah, we'll just talk. That's like when Tyler was talking about the cameos in season 2 being like Will Poulter and Olivia Colman, 2 recognizable faces, but like their cameos had meaning. Like their cameos like helped out characters like move forward within their arc. John Cena is just there to be John Cena and just to like fuck
And it's
around with
great.
facts.
And it's great.
It's hilarious. It's fucking hysterical, but like it's so like he walked into the bear and I was like immediately that's the last person I would have ever guessed to walk through those doors right now.
No, yeah, it was a silly cameo, but it was fine for what it was. Fun, silly. Same with Josh Hartnett. Like Josh Hartnett gives me the vibe that we might see more of him in the future. John Cena, I would be surprised if we do, and if we do, it's gonna be more comedic stuff. So maybe we'll get some deeper meaning to Josh Hartnett as a cameo. But for the most part, like you said, the cameos in season 3 were just silly, goofy, recognizable faces.
Yeah, I like, again, this episode, like it's literally them just plating it for or setting the table for the pictures for the review, right? That's like all this episode is. I forget why exactly John Cena's there. It's for security.
No, it's to help them like nail things to the ground, nail the tables to the ground.
Yeah, that's what it is. Okay, thank you. But yeah, the cameo is just for funsies, really. And I like John Cena, so I like him showing up. But it's another episode where it's like it's just them getting. But I think what this show does so well is edits the episodes so well and so tightly to where like even the episodes that nothing's happening in, it's so anxiety inducing that you just feel ingrained in this episode. The way they're moving, like napkins have to be perfect. Let's make it look like this. Let's make it look like this. Like they do it so well, in my opinion, that I think it works. But again, it's hard to go into the episode individually because it's really just them setting this for the review, right? Not much going on otherwise.
Yeah. Otherwise, the only like other big, two big things. One of them kind of comes, in further down the line and basically saying, we have to. Sugar's
cut costs.
Putting together that we got to cut cost, or else they're like she knows that they're going to get shut down if they don't. And at the end of the episode, Chef Carmy finds out that Olivia Colman's character Terry is shutting down Ever, and then that sends. It kind of just like very poor timing for him to learn that news, given like how strong or how weak he is mentally, because he's already questioning, the stability of his own restaurant. He's already doubting like everything he's doing and every decision he's making in his restaurant. And now he learns that I don't know where Chef Terry ranks on like the, best chefs in the world, but I believe she's one of the best.
Yeah.
High.
At least to him. Yeah.
At least to him, he's finding out that, one of his greatest mentors and one of the greatest chefs in the world, her restaurant is closing down. So if she can't do it, why would he be able to?
And I think it's like a good look at the idea that like she's not shutting it down because she can't run this place. Right? She's shutting it down because it's her time to be done. Like she doesn't want it to keep going unless I miss something completely.
No, I was going to actually add to that because I think when we first hear about it in this episode, he assumes or they make it seem like bankrupt. But then in the final episode, she kind of says like, no, like, I just want to go travel, live my life. And you realize it's like her realizing this isn't for her, which further adds the whole sentiment, the whole season that this fine dining restaurant succeeding isn't going to bring him the happiness he's looking for. But yeah, I think,
but he definitely doesn't have that yet. But yeah, you're
right.
Exactly
and that just further goes to his mind where he always goes to thinking about the business. And like the first thing he thinks about is like restaurants closing, must be going bankrupt, which to be fair, that's probably where your mind should go to. Like that's where my mind would go to. If anyone said like their business is closing, I wouldn't immediately go to like, oh great, you're going to go travel the world now and have a fun time. Like I'd be like, oh darn, like times are tough. But so, but I think you're right. I think at first it's like painted as bankruptcy. Yeah. Then you realize it's not.
And I think that's an important part of the season is just he's not taking these things that are very clear signs that like this isn't everything, right? He's not taking these hints that like, hey, you can have other things in your life, and I think that's a big part of the season as well. But yeah, onto napkins.
Yeah, let's talk napkins. Yeah, shout out IO. Kind of like. It literally like when like directed by Io Debris came up at the end, that felt like the end of a Thrones episode where like music doesn't play and it says like directed by Miguel Sapochnik or something. It like was that impactful just because of how such a fucking good job she did with this episode. Tina-centered episode. and I've been saying this time and time again, this show is so thoughtful and so honest. Up until this episode, Tina was not a character I think many people like really cared about on like a more emotional level, the way we do with like Carmy and Sydney and Cousin. But damn, by the end of this episode, I was team Tina. I was like, she is such a fantastic fucking character, because this show just in one episode, in one quick 35-minute episode, developed her better than some characters have been developed in any show through multiple seasons. We saw her from the very start get fired from her job. Then she goes through kind of this struggle finding a job. She's realizing she's like maybe past her prime, and every industry she wants to get into has just been so, they've gotten so young and so modern, and she can't keep up. So she's starting to feel useless. She obviously feels bad in the house because her husband is picking up shifts here and there, working for $600, $700 a day, trying to like cover what she's not kind of bringing in. And then, I mean, we'll talk about it endlessly, I'm sure. Her entire conversation with Mikey, I mean, just one of my favorite, back and forths that I've seen in this entire show between seasons 1, 2, and 3. It is just, again, this just goes back to John Bernthal and how good he is in this season, in this whole show. But dude, the character of Mikey is written so well, and like, he sees Tina crying, immediately comforts her, just doesn't say like, hey, how are you? He just walks up to her. He says, bad day, huh? And then they have the most like comfortable conversation of two people you would think have known each other for years. And it just goes to show how good the writing is in this show. But I'll pass it to Cam. This episode's insane.
No, yeah, I think this is up there in some of the best episodes of this series for sure. Ayo Edebiri did a fantastic job. Obviously, not necessarily writing the episode, where I think a lot of the benefit of this episode, no slack on her. Just it's written so well. It's wildly impactful. But just kind of seeing Tina like go through this hardship of trying to find a job, and it's very hard to find a job right now. And just this, especially like if you're, we're very lucky to be on the younger side of things right now. Like people are looking for like the younger, very hard to find a job. And I feel for, people who are in this situation, but just the look into it, fuck you. Cause and not working with her at all to like, he's like, yeah, that ad, she signed up for the ad online, and he's like, you got to take it down. They filled it yesterday. And she's like, well, it's supposed to happen today. And he's just doing his job, right? As a secretary, like he doesn't have any control of this. But like he's not doing his job to the full extent, and yet he has a job and she doesn't, kind of thing. So it's just it's a hard look into finding a job. And then, like you mentioned, the scene at the end is absolutely incredible. I respect Mikey and not able to do that. But yeah, it's just a fantastic episode. And the way he like talks about Carmy, it just goes back to like that season 1 monologue of like Carmy not knowing how much he cared about him, kind of thing. And it hits on every emotional beat. And you see how Tina gets this job at the restaurant. Tyler, I think this might be your favorite of the season, or I know you like it as well. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on it too.
Yeah, I still give it to episode 1, but this is easily top 5 episode of the series, second favorite of the season. But shout out the actress who plays Tina, Liza Colon Zayas. I think she's great in this, and it's worth mentioning, like the husband who plays the husband in this episode is her husband in real life, David Zayas. They've been married for 26 years. So yes, they're actual husband and wife. And yeah, awesome. And it just adds that personal touch, because you can tell they're struggling, and he's so comforting, like saying like, don't worry, we're going to get through this. But she's clearly like freaking out. Like she's all she's ever done is worked. She feels like she's just being a leech on, his paycheck, because he's been trying to get a raise that's never going to come. And they're really struggling without two incomes. And I just love the whole montage. You go through days where she's learning how to build together a resume and apply to these jobs, and learning that applications are online, and having to adapt to that, and like LinkedIn. and just going store to store trying to get resumes. And then just this whole way where ultimately she misses like her train ends up being late to go home, and she ends up being able to go to the Chicagoland Beef or whatever their restaurant's called again, and get a beef sandwich, just hang out in that little arcade restaurant area. And that's where we get that incredible conversation with her and John Bernthal, which lasts probably like 15 minutes or so. Like, it's incredible stuff. And it just gets so deep as it goes on. You're just like slowly eased into them, just getting emotional and deep. And like one of you mentioned, it just feels like they've known each other forever, but just brilliant acting performances throughout, great direction, editing. Just like, obviously the second half is great with the whole conversation over the beef sandwich and about the napkins, but the whole first half too, with the whole just montages of like trial and error, failing and trying to get a job and the struggle that it's having on her family, and her trying to keep it all together. And she's like trying to put together a resume, which she's never done before, while our kids screaming in another room, and how stressful it is. And that classic pressure cooker the bear puts you under. This just has all the beats, and there's just like, this episode has everything that is kind of what is great about the bear. And shout out AO for bringing it all together.
Yeah. And I think this is what I mentioned at the start of, there are filler episodes in this show that none of them feel like filler episodes. Like, if you give this episode in a Breaking Bad, people lose their mind because it's not Walter White cooking, but in this, like, they truly flesh out these characters and you care about these characters. And it's awesome to see. Also, Tyler, Bolivia just scored. So we have hope.
Oh, hell yeah.
Fuck. What do you guys bet against the United States?
No. USA is playing Uruguay. Bolivia is playing Panama.
Right.
And we need Panama and Bolivia to tie, or actually we need Panama to lose. But other and in order
and one last thing on the Tina episode, it then just makes like, then you think back on like that very like quick scene we got of like everyone walking out of Mikey's wedding earlier in the season, and you see Tina crying, which like obviously she would cry, someone close to her regardless, even if they didn't have that special moment, like, she would still cry. But then it just makes like that crying feel just more impactful, because it's like, damn, like Mikey probably changed her life without realizing it. Asking her to come work at the Bear. Yeah. But all right, moving on to Ice Chips. I just think like
you skipped over Legacy.
I skipped over Legacy. My bad. I scrolled too far. I was gonna say I was reading the wrong thing. This is, and I was mistaken earlier in this episode. This is where Sydney is offered the job at that Adam guy's hopeful new restaurant. He basically offers her a brand new job. He's just like, he wants her. Like, he is truly like recruiting the shit out of her. He's like, yes, CDC, healthcare, great bonus, great pay, blah, blah, blah. Sydney even asks like, what's the food? What's the menu that you want? And he says, whatever you want, which obviously made Sydney's eyes just completely light up. This man is saying, hey, I'm going to pay for you to come to my restaurant. I'm going to provide you the funds, and you can do whatever the fuck you want. And like, obviously with everything going on with, her actual kitchen and Carmi and the way he's running it and the way he's been treating her the last 6 episodes, that probably seems just like the best offer she could have received in this moment. And we'll get to the final episode with what happens with Sydney. But that's just been that's going to be like a big theme for her character for the remainder of the season, is just how is she handling like, this is it. She's still very young. This is like a huge decision for her to have to make at such a young age. And this is probably the biggest decision that she's had to make in her professional career. And it obviously just completely, takes over you.
Doesn't she also have to like put up a large amount of money too to be part of that partnership deal, or am I mistaken? I thought there was like, if she takes it, she has to like.
I don't think so.
No, okay, never mind.
No, she'd start. It's like a no loss situation. Like, she starts with full benefits, and then I think it was like an $80K salary or something, which she doesn't make at the Bear. It's like, she there's no downside to it other than just not being at the Bear anymore. Which
and it's obviously a tough decision because but I don't know. It is, but I don't know if the show's painted it to be such a tough decision, because I don't know. Like, I feel like the relationship between them, I know everyone always talks about online, like, oh, they should be in a relationship. We mentioned that earlier, but it's like I don't see a single inkling of like why they would ever want to be in a relationship.
No.
And if you're a fan of Sydney's character, you should want her to be 10 feet away from Carmi, not touch him with a 10-foot pole. Like he's terrible for her life. Like he gave her a chance, but like with her resume, like she was getting a chance anywhere. Basically, like she has all the makings and trainings to be a great chef, but she just started her own thing and it failed. Like she would have found something else. And I mean, I guess it's similar to like Tina's situation where, it was like the opportunity that granted them something. And she kind of built this together with them. But at this point in season 3, we're at episode 7 at this point. Like the bear is 5% Sydney, 95% Carmi at this point, if even that much for Sydney. So it's like at this point, I feel like the pull to leave's got to be very, very strong, where it's going to be a lot more of her input, not the crazy conditions that she's having. But I think it kind of draws back to her just thinking Carmi can change and she has that relationship with him. But
yeah,
I don't know. I just don't get that strong pull or reason she wants to stay.
I think it's a lot of like what you said of like she had no one wanted her, but she had a lot of jobs prior to this at good restaurants, if I'm not mistaken. Like in the first season, they mentioned that. And just like like you said, she started her own thing, screwed her credit. That's a big part of her. And like, so she lives with her dad and does this, and this is her chance to redo it. She's going to fully dive into it. And I get her decision, but it's one of those things like, I don't know. It's a much better opportunity. And in work, sometimes like you're young, so you made these friends and this is their life. My work, not really my life, hopefully, I got other things so I can make a decision easier, but it's I understand how it's a little bit hard, but I don't think they paint it too hard.
Yeah.
I feel like a part of it also feels like Sydney herself doesn't want to put herself in a position where she is like a competitor to, Carmi. Cause like her whole initial reason for wanting to work at the Bear is because of Carmi. It's because she wanted to work, like she said in season 1,
so
when do
we see that scene? I can't remember this.
Oh, when she goes to his restaurant.
Yeah. And it's the best meal she's ever had. When is that?
True. I forgot about that.
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if that scene is before or after this episode.
It's got to be before. It's got to be before.
Yeah.
But I can't remember it. And I saw it on Twitter a million times, and I was like, when was this? I was watching.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. That adds a lot of motivation to her wanting to say. I forgot about that part.
Yeah. But
she's there for Carmi.
Yeah. And we'll obviously get to the final episode and what happens to Sydney and what our predictions are on that going forward. But we'll move to episode 8, which is Ice Chips. Another, I think this is probably my second favorite episode of the season, behind the season premiere and maybe behind Napkins. But I love this. I really do. I've grown to love Jamie Lee Curtis in this role, even though we only have her in 3 episodes now, I believe, total. I think she's fantastic. And where in the first time we saw her in Fishes, she was just this absolutely deranged, borderline going crazy woman. And in this one, I think it's hysterical that Sugar called her because she couldn't reach literally anyone else at the restaurant. But you kind of like the vibe we know of her mom is like that crazy woman from Fishes. So like when she called her mom, I was like, oh shit, like this is about to be a really, really fucking chaotic episode. And it turns out to be just one of the most like wholesome and heartfelt, mother-daughter outings that we've ever had in television, where Jamie Lee Curtis is she dials it back and she's like, she just knows the situation she's in. She's been saying it all episode, I've done this 3 times. So she's trying to like hold Sugar's hand as they go through this journey of having a child, especially when Sugar's husband wasn't there at the time. So I think it's just a really sincere episode. It's really beautiful. It's really, again, there are moments that are really funny in this episode. And I really love it. And a big part of it is because of Jamie Lee Curtis, because I really like her in this role.
Yeah. One thing that's worth mentioning that we forgot a couple episodes earlier, I mean, it's a minor thing, but adds into Ice Chips, is we find out that Sugar didn't tell her mom that she is pregnant.
season premiere of
Yeah.
season finale of 2.
Yeah.
And Pete kind of like lets it slip that, you know, she's pregnant. So basically, you know, Sugar goes from not even telling her she's pregnant to that's ultimately the person who's going to be there for the birth of her child. And obviously, like George mentioned, not ideally because she called like 8 other people before, but she was stuck in traffic and classic pressure cooker stress. But she finally got to the hospital, and also like George said, it was a very sincere episode, but it started out very chaotic when she first got there with the breathing. I kept telling her to breathe, and then the ice chips, you know, being the titular name of the episode, being really what started to calm the situation down, of being something that they both bonded over together, something that kind of helped them get through their labor. And then from there is very caring and endearing. You saw a side of Jamie Lee Curtis you hadn't seen prior. And one of the great emotional character arc developments of this show. And kind of, we've probably said it 3 times or 4 times now that there's filler episodes. Yes, this is absolutely a filler episode by textbook definition, but you get so much layers to these characters that just it's like investing. You know, you're going like the future seasons now. Anytime you see Jamie Lee Curtis or Sugar, either one of them, there's just so much more nuance and backstory. Same with Tina. We just talked about napkins. Like by giving these backstories, it's just going to make it so much more rewarding when you get later into these seasons as it keeps going on. Because, you know, we'll talk where it's going to go from here at the end of the season. But like if we're talking, and we mentioned this show's a more mental health show than a restaurant show. But if we're talking from a pure restaurant perspective, if the bear ends up being a successful thing, if they change it to whatever, like there's so much more they could do with the show in terms of the pure restaurateur career of Carmi. Now, what directions they want to take it, whatever, but I'm basically saying this show feasibly could have 3, 4, 5 more seasons if they wanted to. So setting up and investing in these character stories now, I think is something that's going to pay off in a big way.
Yep. I like this episode, but I don't need to dive into it any more than you guys did already. I think you nailed it.
That's
surprising that this I see a lot of people on Twitter say like napkins and ice chips, you know, like the top 2 and the intro one as well. But I also see a lot of people saying that they don't like the bear because of how much filler episodes there are. So maybe it's like 2 separate people I'm seeing, like the you know, the people that are like, oh, bear's too much filler, doesn't like ice chips, and vice versa. But yeah, by like it, if you open the textbook, this is a filler episode. It's Sugar giving birth, and Sugar is 7th, 8th, 9th down the list of members of this cast of characters that you care about.
She grows a little bit
emotional
by
involvement.
Now. I think she's up there with a Marcus by
True,
now.
I guess, because she's like running
first season. She's
business.
not like anything.
But would you say she's like bigger than Cicero in terms of like what we see in the show?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think so. Yeah,
I think they're like equivalent. But I don't know.
Maybe
because Cicero, we get so much more season 1. Like we get the whole episode at his house. Like we still like we had early season big Cicero moments, and we're starting to get later season big Sugar moments. But
yeah, that's fair.
You know, still she's not top 5, I'd say. But and that's another criticism I'd have for the season is, which I think is intentional because of Carmi and Sydney's relationship. But I thought we got so little AO in this season, and so little like we got episode 4 maybe was a little bit, but did not get a ton of her. But I mean, we got her behind the lens at least. But
yeah. Regardless, like you said, it is polarizing, like how many, you know, quote unquote filler episodes this show has. But that's the big reason why I love this thing, man. They just focus on so many of their characters you just never think they would focus on. And it's weird. Like, imagine if like The Office did like a Kevin filler episode, like no one would give a fuck ever.
Time out. Time out.
I want to see him make a chili.
Kevin is my favorite character.
I'm just
bad
saying,
example,
like,
George. Bad example.
All right, pardon me for that example for bringing
what the
up
fuck
Kevin.
is Ma? That's a great quote that no one will get.
If they did a Walt Jr.
Bell
episode on
Schnickel
Breaking Bad, there you go.
Yeah, Walt Jr. episode. That'd be crazy.
But, all right, well, fuck me for that one. But all right, episode 9. I guess the biggest thing that happened in episode 9, and I guess this kind of sets up, like I said, why this season mostly feels like a part 1 of something larger. Cicero pretty much breaks the news that, you know, if this review is bad, he's done. He's hanging it up. He's not supporting the bear anymore, and they're gonna have to close down. What I guess here's what I want to ask you guys on. After that conversation, Cicero gets in the car with Computer, and Computer basically says like, "Oh, you didn't tell him," and like, which I guess what he didn't tell him was that the bear's gonna have to shut down regardless. Did I understand that correctly? So like at the end of this,
Cicero's like broke right now.
Yeah,
he owes a lot of money to creditors.
He had a bad. It was like sounds like a bad
bad financial year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that just like make the review, I guess, ultimately pointless, or do we think
I think, so here's the thing. We can talk about it in the future of where we think this show will go. Is the show going to give us a positive ending or not, kind of thing? I hope it's positive because like that's how I like my shows, but we'll see. Is the review wasn't bad. The review was,
You don't know. It gives you
We
bad
don't know
words
the
and good
review.
words.
Yeah.
yeah, no, the review, in my opinion, and sorry to talk episode 10, but you know, we'll just
move on to it.
The review was, it's messy. It's exquisite, but it's loud and chaotic. It's a messy restaurant almost, and it's not like your normal. And maybe that's something that like pumps people in. You know,
It's kind of like
might be
like this restaurant like
money
has so much potential.
It's very
but
clear
they
this
have not
restaurant's
reached
booming. This restaurant's
yeah.
booming. It's not making money, but it's also being mismanaged because they have to do a new menu every night and they have to do this and this and this. And so it's very clearly booming, but not like what it should
but
be.
Because of the menu issue, they're not able to like genuinely profit from it.
There's like they're buying like super expensive butter, I think, and things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
From where is it, like Delaware or something, New Hampshire?
Yeah,
but I think because of what we learned in episode 9 about Cicero, and it's clearly something that's not like, it's not something that the Bears gonna have to close. It's the way they made it set up. It's like the Bears gonna have to close. Business X is gonna close. Why? Like he's like in deep doo-doo is what it sounds like. So I think because of that, there's no way the review is negative, because I feel like what's gonna happen, like in order to just like draw out the show, would be like positive review. And now it's like the new things would be like finding a new investor, someone like some angel's gonna be like, I love this food. Like, I mean, Chicago has a lot of wealthy people. They're gonna find some other. Like, I think Cicero is going to exit the business. They'll find someone else. But if they get like a terrible shit review on top of Cicero, like not having money to continue this, then like party's over. Like there's nowhere to go from there. So I feel like it has to be a good review simply because like they're going to have to find a new suitor clearly if what Cicero's saying. Because like we mentioned, like there's a successful restaurant right now, but monetarily it's barely breaking even. So even if the review's like incredible, and just like from my very small knowledge of the restaurant business in general, I don't think any restaurant could all of a sudden boom enough to where like they're cash flowing so much money in the next 6 months that like Cicero's out of debt and like fine. Yeah. Like
it's 800,000 to break even on this, but the lot itself is worth what, like 2 million basically.
Probably.
Lots in Chicago. That's kind of what the idea is, I think, is in season 2. That's how they pitch it to them. Because lots in Chicago, are probably going for that much. Like people want to buy this shit up immediately. And so that makes sense, but it's one of those things. Obviously, his hand is pressed. Like your timeline was 6. I think the timeline originally was 18 months, and now it's
took
probably
a year to open. And
I don't remember.
I think it's 3 months to open.
3 months.
First season is all about we got to get because it's like we could do this in 6 months easy, but they got to make it chaotic. So they're like, 3 months, whatever. So now the timeline's probably like a year, and I don't know how long season 3 was. It might have only been.
Felt like a week.
It felt like a week. It might have been like a month max, because they do have some montages of them like cooking every night, kind of thing. But it's definitely the timeline's definitely going to be way pushed up, kind of thing. So we'll see what happens there.
Quick nugget, Cam, just for you, because I want to say before I forget. Do you know Stephen Che from Barstool?
He is not. That is not him, man.
That's not him. Okay, because I saw 2.
He tweeted it.
He lives in Chicago though. Like it could be. Like he's Barstool's in Chicago now.
I'll send you the picture of a more.
No, because that's the thing I was going to ask you. Is I saw 2 pictures of that still, and like one that he tweeted looked like him. Like I don't know if they edited. Like I'm sure at Barstool have graphic designers, but I
do know who that is. I'm confident that's not him.
Yeah, I would love to know. Please fact check me on that, because that'd be crazy, because that still is going to be something that people are going to use for like years to come. Is like, this moment was so great in the Bears. What we're talking about, George, is like basically the
beautiful shot. Like
when like Evan, Moss Backrack's in the restaurant looking back and they're looking at each other through the wall. Basically, like there's guys sitting at his dinner eating, and a guy from Barstool said that it was him, which like feasibly could be. It looks like him. Barstool's based in Chicago now, but like no one really knows. But like it's crazy if you're like that person eating in that shot, because that shot's so great that it's going to be like an all-timer for years to come. But going into episode 10, just like my thoughts is like, I kind of already said them, I guess. Just, I think the restaurant review is going to be successful, and they're going to need to find a new investor in order to keep going. But in terms of Cam's broader question of where the show could go from here, like, do we think this is a show that's going to have a happy ending in general?
That's what I think. The answer is yes, but I think we're gonna have a happy ending. I don't know how to explain it, but I just think we do. I think this show wants to continuously lead you on to just everything ends in chaos, everything ends in shit. So why wouldn't the show? Whereas I think they're gonna just completely subvert all of our expectations and give us that happy ending. I don't think, and Tyler, I completely agree with you about the review and needing to find a new investor. So I'm more concerned with what is Sydney's decision going to ultimately be, because at the end of the episode, she's at her after party, which is at her apartment, and she sees an old 5-star review of The Bear, which just sends her into a frenzy, full-blown panic attack. Congratulations, Io, on your second Emmy. That was your Emmy scene. But I think we're going to lead to a happy ending with the two of them, between Sydney and Carmi. I think I'm also saying that just because I hope it happens. Their friendship has been built so beautifully, even though it was chaos this season. I still they still care about each other deep down. So I pray it has a happy ending. I pray that Sydney
How many seasons do you think we get? Do you think
5.
we get next season 5? You think we get next
5.
season Sydney is in the new restaurant or something? Or and then maybe season 5 she comes back? I hope not.
Maybe, yeah, she goes to the new restaurant midway through the season. They get a shit review and Carmi takes her back or something. I don't know.
Yeah. My what I could easily see happening is episode 1 of the season 4 we get. The review ends up being great. Sydney makes her decision to leave, and Carmen's why are you leaving? Things are going great for us. Or she decides to stay. Cicero drops out. Then she's I'm going to go leave for the new opportunity. And then Carmen's what, you're going to leave us now when we're in the shit? You're not going to help us get through this? Or she stays even all the way through that, and they find a new investor. And then same thing as the first reaction from Carmi, being what, we finally got a new investor after all this shit we've been through, and you're finally going to leave? I think they're going to have some sort of falling out. It's going to get, it's a situation I think is going to get worse before it gets better. But I think it will get better. And I think the show will end on a more positive note, but I don't think they would ever do this, because I think it's way too dark, and we've already had Mikey, offing himself. But have you seen the movie 7 Pounds with Will Smith?
Yeah.
Well,
I
low key, with all the filler episodes this season, there was a moment where I was are they going to do a 7 Pounds moment where it's going to Carmi doesn't survive this, but Tina's life is so much better because of him, and Marcus's life is so much better because of him. And I was I don't think they will. That's way too dark, and I really don't want them to. And I think it'd be bad writing, because that's just too much negative. There's no positivity on the glimmer of their conversation on mental health. But
I think
there's a moment with all these filler episodes where I'm damn, are they gonna 7 pounds them, where it's Carmi sacrifices himself in order to make everyone else's lives better? I don't want them to.
Yeah, mental health is a very hard subject to make in a story, right? Because we've seen it in On the Count of 3, where these two characters want to take their lives, and by the end of it, one does, one doesn't. And I think it works in that. It's a very hard subject to tackle, because not every mental health case ends really happily. But I don't know if you can obviously, but can you make an extremely popular show where the main character, who's obviously been battling all these mental health issues, takes their own life at the end, and that's the ending of it? And
that'd be a terrible message.
That's exactly. It's obviously the reality of life, and unfortunately, it's very sad how often that is the case. But it's I don't think it's something you can make a show about.
I don't think Christopher Storer is going to do that, because he cares so much about mental health.
Pitching that to the FX crew is just. I feel like that's not gonna go over.
Got to be the fastest no in history.
Yeah, right.
Which, speaking of FX, I just want to quickly touch on it sucks that this episode or seasons all get dumped at once, but what isn't FX a TV station still? I don't get how is this an FX show, but they drop it all at once on Hulu? I don't get.
I don't know.
I haven't had basic cable TV in years, and haven't watched it. I don't know.
They still have commercial breaks built into the episodes. You
can tell when it was
black. Shout out that, because I miss that in old sitcoms where the commercial breaks.
Is FX just a super forward thing in TV network, and being this is a Hulu show, yes, but we'll still add those commercial breaks for the 2% of people that are going to watch this weekly when we release it on cable TV.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just don't get, because it's so weird to me. There's like an FX, because like if it's a Hulu original, it makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I think at this point with season 2 and season 3, it sucks that they drop them all at once. But season 1, almost when I was watching it, I was like, I don't know. I was almost watching season 1. I was like, this isn't the worst thing to just drop all at once. I feel like it's a bingeable show. And I feel like season 1 didn't go as deep as the other 2 seasons where like season 2 and season 3 gave you stuff like, I mean, fishes and forks. I mean, my God, you want to breathe with that and soak it in and think about that for a while. You don't want to just go right into the next one. I mean, I did, but it'd be nice to have a weekly thing. But season 1, like I feel like was like, and the finale is super emotional. But again, that's the end of the season, so you kind of are left on that. But I don't know. I watched season 1. I'm like, this isn't the worst thing in the world to be dropped all at once. I thought people were overreacting with how mad they were. But season 2 and season 3, I mean, yeah, I think The Boys does it best, like we talked about in Real Talk. Give us the first 3 episodes all at once, and then just do weekly from there. But give us like a quick binge, satisfy the itch, the show's back, and then
I think the issue
once
with
a week.
dropping them all at once is now you're pissed when the seasons have 3 years in between, like Stranger Things type thing where it's dropped all at once, and then there's so much time in between. At least weekly, you have a month of this show or 3 months of this show kind of thing. But right now, I'm like, when's season 4? And The Bear does well with like creating seasons at a time, but it's something like House of the Dragon. I'm filled for 2 months or whatever on my lust for that. Whereas like I don't know, like I said, Stranger Things drops all at once, and then you wait six years in between. It's annoying like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else you guys want to discuss from this season? I feel like we touched on.
I feel like we covered it pretty well.
How many whatchamacallit does this get? Emmys does it get?
Oh, a ton. Actually, yeah, I still do think. Because like Tyler said at the beginning of this episode, like critics are still loving this.
Editing,
though, like
it's gonna nail.
Yeah, it's getting editing. Jeremy Allen is probably going to snag another Emmy. I could see Io snagging another Emmy, even though she wasn't as massive in this season. But that final panic attack probably just like solidified that Emmy for her. Isn't there an Emmy for like guest appearances?
I believe there is. Yes.
Yeah. Is the whole category just going to be everyone from The Bear?
I don't know.
Like the whole category: Jamie Lee Curtis, Will Poulter, Olivia Colman.
If it's still a comedy, like what are they going up against? Like Abbott Elementary? Like, and I know that does very well with critics too, but I think Emmys will still be a lot going to The Bear.
Real quick, I do think we skipped over a couple like good moments in the final episode. Like he obviously confronts Joel McHale, which, by the way,
I forgot about that.
I don't think Joel McHale's a good asshole. I think he's
really. I thought he was really intimidating.
I mean, he's good. He's good. I just don't think he's that great as an asshole.
He scared the shit out of me, dude. From the first thing he said was he mispronounced Carmi's last name.
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
Immediately Victoria's like, oh no,
he's not bad, so I don't want to say that. I just think he's better as a comedian. But I think it's like it's worth noting, it's one of those things you think Carmi's going to tell him off and like tell him all this, and he's like, I made you better. I made you what you wanted. Like you're a fucking CDC at a major restaurant now. I did that for you, kind of thing. And it's just such a shitty scene where you want that resolve of like, he's going to nail him. He's going to do this. And you just don't get that. But then you kind of get some sort of resolution at the end with
Terry,
Olivia Colman, Chef Terry. Yeah. And you get a little bit of her mindset, and you understand like that's when you fully understand she's not shutting this down because of bankruptcy. She's shutting this down because she wants to go travel and do this and that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it was a very good finale. And the cliffhanger of the newspaper article, or sorry, the whatever article. But yeah, good episode. I just think we should touch on those parts.
I love that they made Richie and Chef Terry like homies. Like when she first started her speech, like she like specifically nodded at him. So like clearly they like kept in contact beyond the first week. And also kind of funny, which was kind of sad to see. They made Will Poulter's character be like the chef that no one likes. Like everyone hates
Yeah.
him. I was like, damn, why you got to do my guy like that? Like,
Yeah, when he's having that conversation and the person just fucking leaves, I was like, oh man, that's so funny.
Hey, he did have a nice conversation with Sydney though, which I know
Yeah,
Twitter
she's
loved.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Twitter just
that's
loves any ship, man.
yeah. Twitter does love a lot of ships.
Oh.
But that's it. That's how long have we been talking? Maybe like an hour and a half.
Hour and a half, yeah.
That was a good
Wow.
little bear deep dive. I mentioned it earlier. I think there's an obvious season ranking, and it's 2, 1, 3.
Yeah.
And I've been saying it all week. That's
I
not a
really
knock
like
at all.
3,
To
I'll be honest.
yeah, I really like 3 too. Again, this is not a knock to season 3. This is just a testament to how highly I hold seasons 1 and 2, particularly season 2. But yeah, great show. I've been saying it, one of the best, if not the best, on television. I'm very happy that the two of you took the time to really binge the shit out of it.
Thanks for the recommendation, George.
Anything else you guys want to say before we wrap up?
Good
Nope.
show. Give us season 3.
Excited for Cam.
season
Excited to
4.
see
Season
Cam's tattoo.
Yeah, true.
Dude, like my heart dropped. My heart got so full at the end of episode like 9 in season 2, where Sydney says "Let it rip."
Yeah.
I kind of wish they said "Let it rip" at like the start of every night. That was like their thing. But no, it's like doors.
It's like
or
the
something.
important moments. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the really important moment, maybe. But shout out to, again, all you guys for listening. Shout out to our patrons. Let us know in the comments if you made it to the end of this episode. What is your ranking of the seasons? And if you want, tell us your favorite and least favorite episode of each season. But we'll wrap up there real quick, episode 161, and we will see you. When will we see them, Tyler?
Tomorrow for the real quick draft of what did we even do? Post-apocalyptic movies.
Post-apocalyptic movies. Yeah, I forgot for a second too.
Of all time.
Yeah, difficult draft. Tune into that for a lot of questioning what movies are. But again, thank you all, and we'll end up there.
See y'all.
Peace.